Hey fam, it's Rachel. Today on Crack Your Bible, I just wanted to pop in really quick and say something because I know there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. Now, I'm currently still editing the last portion of my interview with Kevin, the missionary to Egypt. You guys, these interviews take so long to edit, even though there's nothing to cut out or anything like that. My last episode took 10 straight hours to edit, just putting in the Bible verses. These things take forever to put up. So anyway, I'm still working on that, but I did want to pop in and say something because, something that Kevin and I had mentioned in the first two portions of the interview was the importance of seeing a doctor if you are experiencing mental health issues. But I want to piggyback on that and say if you're having any sort of health issues, go to a doctor. You are not a bad Christian if you go to a doctor. Don't believe the lie of the devil who tells you, oh, you just don't have enough faith in Jesus. You don't love God enough. If you're going to a doctor, you're a bad Christian if you see a physician. No, God works through doctors, you guys. God works through doctors. God doesn't always just magically take whatever you have away. Sometimes he works through doctors. And remember, Luke was a physician. The writer of the book of Luke was a physician. Remember when Paul preached into the middle of the night and Eutyches fell asleep. He fell out of a window and died. How do we know that he died? Because Luke, the physician, was able to make that call and said he died. Now, of course, Paul laid upon him. He broke bread, took communion, prayed about it, and then Eutyches was raised from the dead. But we see that God doesn't have a problem with doctors. Jesus says it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. So Jesus himself is saying that if you have an illness, you need to see a doctor. Now, for whatever reason, there's these people that believe that, if they just pray about something, God will miraculously heal them of these things without ever needing to see a doctor. And there are times when, yes, that does happen, but we see that usually happens in places where they don't have access to doctors, where it's not even an option, or they've already exhausted all of their options with doctors, like with the woman who had the issue of blood. She just bled and bled and bled and bled and bled. Doctors didn't know what was going on. And then finally, she touched the hem of Jesus's garment, and he felt the power go out of him, and he said, "Who touched me?" And all of his disciples are like, "What are you talking about? There's a billion people here that are crowding in on you. What do you mean, who touched you? All of us touched you." He's like, "No, I felt the power leave me," and it was that woman who had touched the hem of his garment, and she was made well. But we see, first, she went to doctors, but she was only miraculously, instantly healed after she had exhausted all of those options. So for those of us who live in a place where we do have access to doctors, we do have access to healthcare, we need to utilize it, because so often people pray, "Oh, God, help me, God, help me." God has made a way for you to be well. Go to a doctor. Now, if you're still not seeing results, yeah, of course, God can heal you miraculously. God is our great healer. But remember, he works through doctors. He works through pharmacists. He works through the medical researchers who make all of the pharmaceuticals that we use. So don't discount them, and don't believe the lie of the devil saying "Oh, well, you're just a bad Christian if you go to a doctor." That's not true. And unfortunately, there's a lot of Christians who have believed this lie. This is why you have some parents who are in jail because their kid died of jaundice or diabetes or something equally easily treatable in a first world nation where we have access to health care. Don't give me any grief about saying first world. I just don't have time for that today. But anyway, if you are living in a modern nation with access to healthcare, there's absolutely no excuse for Christians to let their kids die of these easily treatable diseases. And I say this because, I'm very fair-skinned. I'm very fair-skinned, and I live in Las Vegas where the sun is very harsh. And that combination in general is just a recipe for skin cancer. So I noticed that I had this bump that just showed up out of nowhere, and it was like a dark spot. You can see it on camera right there. And I was really worried. Like, it looks kind of weird. I was like, is this skin cancer? I had a spot on my arm and just some other things that popped up. I had like a really tiny, tiny bump on my finger that turned out to be, you see it right there, is a wart. And I mean, it's just a virus. That's all they are. But you still have to get them taken care of because they're highly spreadable. Like, you're very contagious when you have these. So you have to go to a doctor. You can't just rub a lotion or an essential oil on it. You have to go to a doctor. So today I went to my dermatologist to get it checked out because I know somebody who recently died of cancer, and he was young. He was in his 30s. So, I mean, that has been on the back of my mind, like, oh my gosh, what is this? And she checked it out, and she's like, oh no, it's not cancer, but we can freeze it off for you. So she put like the nitrogen stuff on it to freeze it off, and this also, and on my arm. So she's like, oh, this is just like an age spot that people with fair skin get, but we can take it off if you want. And I was like, yes. So eventually this will turn into a scab and just fall off. But like a wart or something, you have to go to a doctor to get it removed. You're not just going to pray this away. And it's highly contagious. So go to a doctor. Go to a doctor. And I know that there's a lot of men out there, not just Christian men, but a lot of men in general won't go to a doctor, which is why they'll die early of very preventable diseases because they don't want a doctor to see like their private areas or anything like that. And this just drives me crazy. I know, like, especially in the modesty brigade community, there's just so much shame around their body that they don't go to a doctor to get certain things checked out. And Satan loves that because then you die of preventable diseases. For example, in some Muslim communities, depending on how devout or orthodox you are, some women are concerned about an OBGYN, which is a baby doctor, a gynecologist, seen down there because it's like, oh no, that's like shameful. And it just, all of this undue stress and pressure. And I know that that same kind of attitude is prevalent in some Christian communities because there's so much shame about the body. And honestly, doctors have seen it all. I've told you guys I used to work in the medical industry before I started my channel, Crack Your Bible. And even though I worked in the back end of stuff, like in a blood lab, you guys, doctors have seen it all. They're not sexualizing you. They're not thinking terrible things about you. You're basically just like a piece of meat. They are looking for abnormalities, for diseases, and if a doctor is looking at your private areas, that doesn't make you gay or something like that. I know, again, a lot of men are concerned about seeing proctologists or, whatever. Go to a doctor. You might have a preventable issue that could be treated right now if you catch it early, but because of the fear and the shame and the lies of the devil that tell you that either if you see a doctor and he touches you down there, that will make you gay or something, or you have shame over your body, or that you're not being a good Christian if you don't just pray it away. This is how people die early. So Christians, it is not a sin to go see a doctor. God works through doctors. Go get this stuff checked out. If you need to get on, low income medical care stuff, whatever, go do it because God works through doctors, and there's no reason why you need to handicap yourself by not going to the doctor and getting these preventable issues taken care of before they spiral out of control and are debilitating and eventually kill you. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. And no, I don't have cancer, thank God. But I am going back in 3 weeks because I have like a little bump on my shoulder. So they're going to cut it and then stitch it up. So, terrible. But it's better than letting it get out of control. It's just like a cyst. So anyway, gross. TMI, but it's better to just talk about it. I would rather tell you what's going on and just let you know there's no shame about having these issues or going to a doctor and getting them taken care of. You're not a bad Christian and you're not going to be able to pray a ward away. So just go get it taken care of. I'm not saying God can't heal those things, but he works through doctors to get these little issues taken care of. So anyway, I would love it if you would like, subscribe, and share, and I will talk to you later. Bye.